The Seattle Seahawks travel to Kansas City to face the Chiefs on Sunday. Kansas City is a 2.5-point favorite on BETDAQ. 42 is the total in this game. Both these teams sit at 6-3, so this one of Week 11's better matchups. These teams are very similar stylistically, both with run-first offenses and stingy defenses. The Seahawks lead the NFL in rush yards per game, and they're 31st, next to last in pass yards per game. The Chiefs, meanwhile, 5th in rush yards per game, 30th in pass yards per game. You look at the other side of the ball, the Seahawks 4th in yards allowed, 10th in points allowed. The Chiefs 6th in yards allowed and 2nd in points allowed. Kansas City surrendering just 16.8 points per game. So you look at this here, you have two very similar teams with identical records. Both these teams have been playing well of late. The Seahawks have won 3 straight games. Kansas City has won 4 straight and 6 of 7. I think the natural inclination is to lean towards Seattle just because of what we've seen out of them over the past, 18 months. Seahawks, of course, won the Super Bowl last season. They started off this season with a dominating win over the Green Bay Packers. And there was some concern about them maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago after they lost that road game in St. Louis. But as we mentioned, they have won 3 straight games. They seem to have it back on track now. So it's just easier to have faith in this Seahawks team that we've just seen beat the best teams in football, just seen meaning a few months ago. It's easier to have faith in Russell Wilson than it is Alex Smith. So it's easy for me to lean towards the Seahawks here, and that was my initial lean. But I admit, the more I look at this game, the harder it is for me to get away from Kansas City. As we mentioned, these two teams very, very similar stylistically. And if you take last season out of it, and let's face it, last season was last season. Both of these teams are different. Seahawks have lost a lot of players on the defensive side of the ball, dealt with some injuries on that side of the ball as well. So take last season out of it, and the Chiefs have just been a better team, especially lately. Kansas City won 4 straight games and 6 of 7. And even though the Seahawks have won 3 straight, all those 3 wins have come against sub-500 teams, and 2 of those wins came by 6 points or fewer. So the Seahawks have by no means been dominant. Now, the Chiefs weren't dominant last week on the road, squeaking by Buffalo 17-13. But until that game, you'd have to point to the football the Chiefs were playing and say, hey, maybe second to none around the NFL. So, I've come around to the other side on this game. This is not one of my favorite games of the week. I think it's going to be a good competitive, low-scoring game that could go either way. But I think I have a lean towards the Chiefs here. Kansas City's just been playing a little bit better than Seattle lately. And I just think my initial lean towards Seattle was biased because of what we saw out of this team last season. They're not playing as well over the past month as the Chiefs. They are going into Kansas City here. They're going to have trouble moving the ball against this Chiefs defense that, as we mentioned, only surrendering 16.8 points per game. They know what's coming. They know Marshawn Lynch is going to be running the football. So I give the Chiefs a slight edge here. Kansas City minus 2.5, my recommendation.